Welcome to Social Aloe Ministries, where we are committed to glorifying God while exposing the devil. In life, you will have trials and tribulations, but it is important for you to recognize the source of your life's storms. The thing is, there are some storms that come from the devil, and there are some storms that come from God. There are times when things are going on, and people are blaming the devil, when actually it is something from the Lord. Something trying to get their attention, to get them on the right path. And in some cases, it is something from the devil to try to keep them from going on the right path. In the book of Job, Job was a righteous man, yet we see where he was afflicted twice by the devil. But it wasn't because he was doing anything wrong. It was because he was a righteous man. And the Lord allowed the devil to put Job to the test. I'm going to give you two examples of two different types of storms where on the surface they may look the same, but the most important thing is to recognize the source. And sometimes you will know the source automatically based on how faithfully you are serving the Lord. In the book of Jonah, in the first chapter, now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and criest against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. And Jonah rose to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down to Joppa, and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof, went down into it, to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. Geographically speaking, Joppa being in Israel, Jonah should have gone to Nineveh, which was back then in Assyria, modern day Iraq, vicinity of Mosul. When Jonah set sail for Tarshish, rather than going to the east, he was going to the west. But it also states that he was trying to escape from the presence of the Lord. There is no place to go to escape from the presence of the Lord. So right here, some clear indications that if Jonah runs into trouble, more than likely it is because he is knowingly defying the Lord. He's operating in disobedience. But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. So that storm was bad enough where it's like it was going to break the ship apart. But again, it is very important to recognize the source of the storms in your life. One thing I can tell you, regardless of the source in your life, whether it's from God or from the devil, a storm is meant to draw you closer to the Lord. A storm is meant to draw you closer to the Lord. Then the mariners were afraid, and cried every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea to lighten it from them. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. So the reason for the storm was Jonah's disobedience, and Jonah was comfortable in his disobedience. He was fast asleep. Everyone else was in a sense, panic mode, but he was relaxed. If you know you're defying the Lord, please don't ever get comfortable. One way or another, it is not going to go well for you. So the shipmaster came to him and said unto him, What meanest thou, O sleeper? Arise, call upon thy God. If so be that God will think upon us, that we perish not. So they were calling upon all gods they could find in an effort to calm the storm. So it's like they knew something strange was going on, because it was probably peaceful one moment, then suddenly, storm. Peaceful one moment, then suddenly, a storm. Do not ignore those sudden storms that come up in your life, trying to get your attention one way or another. And they said everyone to his fellow, "Come, and let us cast lots, that we may know for whose cause this evil is upon us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. Then they said unto him, "Tell us, we pray thee, for whose cause this evil is upon us? What is thine occupation? And whence comest thou? What is thy country? And of what people art thou?" So they knew something was wrong, and now they're inquiring, why was this evil coming upon them? That's another thing. There are times when, if you are associated with the wrong people, you will face some storms too. In some cases, the storms in your life is not because you are disobedient, it's because you're hanging out with people who are disobedient, people who are in rebellion against the Lord. Be careful about the company that you keep. And he said unto them, I am an Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, which had made the sea and dry land. So Jonah said that he feared God, yet he was in rebellion against him. There are many people who will tell you that they fear God, yet they're in rebellion against him. For example, people who engage in witchcraft may tell you that they fear God, but witchcraft, in 1 Samuel 15:23, Samuel said that rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. When people engage in witchcraft, they are trying to exert their will so that it is their will that gets done as opposed to God's will. And that form of rebellion ends up being witchcraft. And they'll get comfortable doing it. And yes, they'll claim that they fear God when their actions prove otherwise. Then were the men exceedingly afraid, and said unto him, Why hast thou done this? For the men knew that he had fled from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. When you know someone is in disobedience against the Lord, operating in rebellion, be very careful about being around that person. You may end up reaping some consequences that you truly do not want to be a part of. Then said they unto him, What shall we do unto thee, that the sea may be calm unto us? For the sea wroth, and was tempestuous. And he said unto them, Take me up, and cast me forth into the sea, so shall the sea be calm unto you. For I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you. So Jonah knew that the reason why the sea was raging was because he was in rebellion against the Lord. But rather than him jumping overboard, he was telling the men to throw him overboard. Be very careful about being around people who know what they need to do in order to make it right with the Lord. But they may want you to do it for them. Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to bring it to the land, but they could not, for the sea wrought, and was tempestuous against them. So now, Jonah was initially in rebellion, and then they tried to rebel against the Lord by helping him. And I keep on going to witchcraft for some reason, but again, witchcraft and rebellion go hand in hand. And a lot of times when a person is in rebellion against the Lord, they will recruit others to help them in their rebellion. But there are many purposes in a person's heart, but it is God's plans that prevail. So they were trying to help Jonah, but by helping Jonah, they too were rebelling against the Lord. So again, it is very dangerous to be around people who you know are rebelling against the Lord. Because in trying to aid and abet the person or those individuals, you too will end up in rebellion. Wherefore they cried unto the Lord and said, We beseech thee, O Lord, we beseech thee, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not upon us innocent blood. For thou, O Lord, hast done it as it pleased thee. So they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. So immediately, once they did what the Lord wanted done, it got calm. So be careful about trying to help those who are in rebellion against the Lord. Be very careful about trying to help those who are rebelling against the Lord. Because in some cases, you may believe that you're doing a godly thing. Because in some cases, Jonah was honest. He basically let them know that he was in rebellion against the Lord. But there are people who will gain your support by lying to you, and next thing you know, you're fighting a battle with them and for them, not knowing that you're fighting against the Lord. In Acts 5, some of the apostles, they were having a hard time because they were preaching the gospel, and the Pharisees and Sadducees did not want them to do that. But in Acts 5, verses 38 through 39, Gamaliel, one of the Pharisees, said that if the members basically of the Sanhedrin were opposing the apostles, if the apostles were doing something that was of their own desires of men, that it would fail. But if what they're doing was of God, that the members of the Sanhedrin would find themselves fighting against the Lord. Before you decide to help someone, ensure that you're not helping someone to rebel against the Lord. So that's an example of a storm that the Lord sent. But like I mentioned, regardless of the source of the storm, every storm is meant to pull you closer to the Lord. See, Jonah was trying to go away from the Lord, but that storm pulled him back in. In Mark 4, starting verse 35, And the same day, when the even was come, he saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And that was Christ, by the way. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. So here you have another storm. One of the key things so far is that the disciples were with Jesus, but there was a storm. When you are walking with Jesus, when you are walking faithfully with the Lord, and storms are coming, then that's a sign that the storm is from the enemy. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on the pillow. So it's kind of similar to Jonah. Jonah was asleep, now the Lord is asleep. Asleep on the pillow. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? So with the disciples, they were in fellowship with the Lord, but then came a storm. And it says that the ship was full. So you can imagine it was taking on water. but Jesus rebuked the storm. So learn to realize or recognize the difference between when a storm is from the Lord and when it is from the devil. A key distinction: if you are walking faithfully with the Lord and you're encountering storms, that storm is from the devil. But if you're knowingly, especially if you're knowingly in disobedience against the Lord and you're encountering storms, take it that that storm is from the Lord, trying to get you closer to Him. The Lord provides peace that transcends human understanding. So here in the storm, the Lord brought peace. In the storm, the Lord brought peace. When you're walking faithfully with the Lord and you encounter those demonic storms, you draw closer to the Lord, you can have peace even while the storm is still raging. I mentioned witchcraft earlier. There are times when people try to get you to make bad decisions by making you think that maybe you're out of favor with the Lord because bad things are happening to you, when that's not the case. I mentioned Job earlier. Job was a righteous man, but there are two events where the devil afflicted him seriously. First, took away his livestock and his 10 children, and then afflicted Job personally with sores all over his body. But it wasn't because Job was sinning. On the contrary, it's because Job was a righteous man. Learn to recognize the source of the storms in your life. But in regards to the source, just know that storms are sent your way to cause you to draw closer to the Lord. And if you're in the storm of the Lord, you will be able to find peace. God bless you.